Hello, I'm Thomas Haire, Chief Content Officer of the Performance Driven Marketing Institute, a not-for-profit trade association that serves companies in the performance and direct-to-consumer marketing world. Welcome to our first event in our fall seminar series, created by the PDMI's Workshop Council, of which these three fine folks are all members. We'll be announcing next month's event in the coming days and look forward to connecting with and educating all interested PDMI members and non-members alike. Speaking of membership, if you're not a PDMI member but are attending today, we'd love to have you consider joining. In a difficult year where we've lost our two multi-day conventions, which we all on this feel so rough about. We love networking in this group. There's no better way to support the mission of the PDMI than joining and sharing your voice in the direction of this industry. In the handouts tab of your control panel, you'll find our PDMI membership brochure. I urge you to download it, flip through it, and contact any of our team members should you desire more information. Before we get to today's conversation, I will turn your attention back to that control panel. The group will be addressing any questions that you guys have at the end of today's session, but that doesn't mean you need to wait to ask them. Please use the questions tab on that control panel to type in your questions. We'll be collecting them, and then we'll be sharing as many as we can with the group at the end of the session. Today, we are talking about lessons from the pandemic. I'm sure you've all learned some, and we all have too. And we continue to learn them as we go with three esteemed members of our Workshop Council. That's one of four member councils that we currently operated by the PDMI. While I welcome and introduce each of our speakers today, I'd like to ask the audience to answer a quick poll question so the group knows who we're speaking with today. Let me pull up this poll. Our first question: what sector of the performance marketing industry is your business in? You can go ahead and answer on the screen, and we'll collect those as we actually introduce our esteemed group. Starting with Shai Bar-Ziv, the newest member of the council. Shai is the Director of Business Development and Partnerships for Rapid Phone Center, a well-established BPO with more than 1,000 multilingual speaking agents located across the United States and Europe. He migrated from working as an actuary for John Hancock Life Insurance to heading business development partnerships at one of the fastest growing BPO contact centers in the industry. He is responsible for developing partnerships and cutting edge technologies that bring the highest possible ROI to clients and the industry. Welcome, Shai.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you for having me, Tom.
Of course. And there's your poll, everybody. Next, we welcome Bryce McCuin, the Director of Marketing for A2B Fulfillment, a progressive 3PL specializing in order fulfillment, customer care, and value-adding business solutions. The company operates a total footprint exceeding 700,000 square feet with facilities across Georgia, South Carolina, and Utah, plus a partner location in Canada. McCuin has worked with more than 25 different clients as a marketing consultant and assisted in everything from building and marketing strategies to media relations, ad buying, search engine marketing, copywriting, and photography. He resides in Greensboro, Georgia, with his wife Jamie and their four boys. That seems like a handful there, Bryce, but thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Finally, the chair of the Workshop Council is Andrea Pass. Andrea is owner of Andrea Pass Public Relations. Her strength in relationships, coupled with her knowledge of the media, results in top-tier targeted media placements to increase brand awareness, reputation management, and sales. She focuses on such categories as consumer products, DRTV, small business, parenting, education, and more. Pass was a leading women entrepreneur, top 25 brand builder, and a DRMA Member of the Year finalist. She serves on the board of the United Inventors Association and membership coordinator of the New Jersey Association of Women Business Owners. Thank you all. Thank you, Andrea, for joining us. We're going to shut this poll down right now.
Thank you, Tom.
Absolutely. Thank you. Let's get started. We are all kind of going through our own various issues and struggles as we work through the last 8-9 months of time, and each of us has had our own specific experience, but there's a lot of common ground for us to learn from. So I want to start with you, Andrea. What do you consider the two biggest moments during the recent months, either personally or for your business, in reacting to and living with this crisis?
Well, Tom, I'm going to start out with the personal. My daughter was getting married on March 22nd, and we all know what happened on March the 13th. So after everything was paid for, we were all set to go. We quickly had to pivot to a backyard wedding, which was going to be March 22nd. And on March 21st, I live in New Jersey, Governor Murphy said, no more weddings after 9 p.m. So we threw a wedding together in 2 hours, did it over Facebook Live, and they're happily married, but now their reception and renewal of vows will happen in November of 2021. So personally, it's all about pivoting. And I guess that fits right in with business because as many have experienced, I lost a few clients at the beginning of COVID, but found that there were others ready to jump onto having public relations to grow their businesses. So there's been that pivot to reach new media outlets, different media outlets, and existing long-term media outlets to get press coverage for clients. So I find that the pandemic had its negatives at the beginning, but they've turned into many positives because of the fact that we are communicating more effectively, more frequently with the press, with clients to secure coverage. So I think that those are my two biggest moments so far in the pandemic.
Understandable. Crazy times with that wedding. I can't even imagine what that must have been like. Just nuts. Shai, what about you?
Well, I'd say, from the business perspective, I'd say that definitely the biggest moment was pivoting to a work at home environment. That moment when that decision was taken, I think was very important to us. I think it was very, we didn't know exactly how it was going to play out. I think we're a very close-knit office culture at Rapid Phone Center, and we definitely enjoy each other's company and social interactions and things like that. And just, we didn't know how the whole managing a team that's working from home was going to work. So I think that moment was a little bit scary. Soon enough, we realized that it was not as bad. But I think that was the biggest moment business-wise and personally. Andrea, you were talking about your daughter getting married. Congratulations. I got engaged in August as well. So that was a very, very big moment personally. I think it was, it offers an incredible, propulsion, and motivation to do other things and to keep going. So I think that was definitely a very big moment as far as strengthening, the desire to do things when you're in the same place for a long time sort of gets lowered, and something like getting engaged, which is a supremely big decision, was definitely very motivating for me. So reacting to and living with a coronavirus has been an experience, but I think if anything, these big moments have taught us to stick together, to trust the people that you work with, trust your family, your friends, to trust yourself and to have self-confidence. And I think we can all pull through from that. So those two moments were very big, personally and business-wise.
Makes sense. Bryce, what about you?
Well, yeah, you mentioned I have 4 boys at home. So as you could imagine, being stuck in a house with 4 boys that are 12, 10, 8, and 3, and my wife, who just so happens to be a school teacher, threw quite a wrench in our plans as a family. So I was working on my lunch shift as a social studies teacher and a lunch person, I'll say, which was interesting. But we, as Andrea said, you just have to learn to pivot and adapt. And for us to have 4 kids is something that you have to get used to. Certainly wouldn't have ever asked to have 4 kids and a pandemic on top of things, but you learn to adapt. And we've grown closer. We've had times where we've had to step away each individually to have our own time, but we've been able to work it out. From a business standpoint, a couple of things I think that really stand out for us as far as moments. Amazon, our business is the business of shipping products, to retail and to consumers. So when Amazon put a hold on non-essential items in March, that certainly sent a lot of businesses scrambling to figure out, what they could do to have a plan B in place. And so we've seen a lot of demand with potential clients that need to get products shipped. And so fortunately for us, we have a redundancy in our network with having multiple facilities. So we have facilities in the east and western part of the United States. So we're able to shift our labor. We're able to quickly adapt. And so fortunately, we've been able to help a lot of businesses with getting their products to consumers, during this difficult time. The other part of that is labor. We are an essential business in the 3 states that we operate in. So we have employees that are still coming in and getting the job done as far as getting items picked, packed, and shipped for our clients. With the virus, you don't just have someone with the virus, right? You have those that are affected or are in contact with others that do. So there's contact tracing. So managing that fluctuation of labor has been very difficult. And, we have seen an uptick in volume because people are ordering more, specifically within our industry from a performance marketing standpoint. So, having that increase in volume, but that understanding of we don't know how many people are going to be coming into the into work on a given day has really been a challenge. So I feel like we've done a really good job in getting creative and trying to find ways to bring in new employees in our facilities. We've reached out to the universities and the local schools to recruit there. We've reached out to partner businesses in the areas that we work in within Georgia, South Carolina, and Utah, where there's been furloughs, just to reach out and say, look, we have opportunities here if you can send us employees. So it's been very much a challenge, but being agile and flexible is definitely key through all of this, as we know from personal or business standpoint. So really proud of what we've been able to do to continue to be successful throughout these difficult times.
Yeah, thanks. Interesting stuff. I mean, particularly in your field there, Bryce, with the vast number of people that work in those centers, that challenge has got to be just crazy on a regular basis. We'll get more into that, I think, a little bit later. Shai, I'm going to turn back to you with the next question. What's the upheaval taught you about your business and the performance marketing industry as a whole that you actually might be able to carry forward if we ever get back to whatever the normal is going to be?
Well, as far as business, I guess that, we work with a lot of e-commerce clients for customer support, and e-commerce in particular saw a huge influx of new users, and specifically a lot of people that had never used the internet before. I think they were new to that. So I think that definitely, as far as creating simple processes, that's been one of the biggest things for us, is that making sure that our standards of procedure are good, making sure that our campaigns are properly set up, that we're staffing accordingly to this influx in volume. Because what we saw was an uptick, in customer support tickets and inquiries, etc. Making sure that we had all our channels open so that people can reach us in different ways, that we were properly set up with our technology to offer omni-channel support. These things are very important, and as I said, it's really something that your standards procedure, your processes matter a lot. I think a moment in which you have a lot of volume, that becomes more clear. And then now that we're going to head back into the new normal, I think there's going to be some things about working in that environment of pressure that we definitely want to take with us, which is probably simplifying things along the way. So I think that is the biggest lesson for us as a customer support center, basically, which is what we are. I think that's the way we like to think of ourselves, more so than a BPO. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Bryce?
For us, just there's been a lot of adaptation and business plans that we've seen. You've seen like our local brewery is creating hand sanitizer, because there's such a demand there. There's gyms that are selling equipment, direct to consumers to continue their business. And, so there's a lot of businesses that are having to get creative. And I think one of the big trends that we've seen is, just within business to business, there are a lot of companies that are unfortunately struggling because, of the limitations that are in place with brick and mortar and, other issues and barriers that they face. So selling direct to consumer is becoming obviously very important and vital for businesses. And so, those are two very different things from a third-party logistics standpoint. With B2B, you have large palletized inventory that's coming in. You have cases that just have to be set up for delivery. Whereas with direct to consumer, you have individual items that you have to account for, and there's technology that's in place to track each of those individual items and shipping notifications. And so, we try to be a resource to potential clients and coming in to help them understand that process and really understand where they want their business to go, and try to be fluid and really adapt to what their needs are, from a 3PL standpoint. And we've always been agile and flexible, and I keep using those terms, but we have to be in our industry. But I think from the marketer standpoint, there's just a lot of uncertainty as to which way they need to go. And with our knowledge of all the different marketplaces and all the different systems, we really can serve as a resource to help guide clients and to understanding where they could find success, and how we can be a resource to them in the process. So
right. Andrea, what about you?
Well, certainly when you're looking at press coverage in the performance-driven marketing category, you're looking at it twofold. Obviously, there's the B2C, so looking at marketers who have products, that those products benefit from press coverage. So whether that's getting included in anyone's top 10 list of whatever kind of cookware product or hardware product or what have you, to the brains behind that particular consumer product, you have that B2C angle in the press. But in performance driven, you've got the B2B angle. And I think that every one of the PDMI members have a story. So whether you're talking about fulfillment, you're talking about phone centers, you're talking about payroll systems or payment systems, you're talking about the marketers with the products, there are press angles for everything. And the B2C category is one end, the B2B category is the other. So whether you're reaching reporters who cover a business approach or reporters that are covering a consumer approach, those are still twofold. Those haven't changed at all as a result of the pandemic. They've just changed in that the Today Show isn't going to be as simple to secure, or Good Morning America as it was never simple, but you're not securing it unless your angle is a COVID-related angle, an election-related angle, a BLM-related angle. So in the categories in performance-driven, there are hundreds of thousands of press opportunities to be had. So it's just the question of having a public relations person like myself get the story to the right individual to be able to include you so that your business is being covered. And when others are reading your business story, they're coming to you for fulfillment, for call centers, or what have you. So it's really those two areas that continue to grow. And again, the word is pivot for me in public relations.
Right, makes sense. Bryce, ask you this because I think I'm going to start with you at least here, because I think with the nature of the business, you probably had some pretty big effects. How was A2B's business most affected by this work from home shift when you have so much of your staff that has to be on site?
Yeah, it fortunately for us, we are cloud-based with a lot of our software, our technology, so we have the capability to make that move. I think you get very set in your processes, and Shai, you spoke to processes earlier. I think that for us was probably the biggest focus is, really look at each of our individual processes and understand, what it is that we're doing, how we're sending orders to out to the floor from the warehouse, from our client services and our business operations side. Looking at our training programs, one of the things that I spoke to our human resources director as, we were preparing for this, and talk to her about some of the challenges that she's faced. You don't think about certain things like with trainings, you can bring 10 to 15 people in. Like Shai, you can understand from a call center standpoint, if you bring in 10 agents, you can bring in 10 people at one time and do a presentation and build an entire orientation around. We're not able to do that, so we're having to do 10 individual trainings that have to take place. So that's a lot of dedicated time, and time is valuable in really any business. So you know, what we're trying to do is take advantage of every opportunity that we have, whether it's recording a training for one specific area and utilizing that as an SOP that we carry on to any new hire within that realm, or, you know, from a benefit standpoint, you know, we can record those things and we can send that to everyone, and utilize that time that we spend. So it's really just trying to make sure that we make the best use of our time, you know, and record everything that we possibly can, you know, and reuse. I mean, it's like with content, right? I mean, when you take the time to create a piece of content, you want to utilize that in every channel possible. And so it's really just challenging yourself to make, you know, the best use of your time, I think.
Yeah. Shai, I'm going to flip that over to you.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said about the call center industry specifically because we're very dependent on a lot of people and there's a lot of agents working. So we need, you know, there was a lot of investment in technical equipment so that everybody was able to keep doing their jobs from home. And that was something that a lot of call centers lacked that we luckily didn't, so that we could continue our process and, you know, everything streamlined. But, you know, that also comes with an added you know, sense of duty from a managerial perspective, because you have to make sure that everybody is, you know, managing everybody's working on the campaigns properly. That means, you know, creating new setups on platforms like Slack where you can manage campaigns, and then, you know, you need to make sure that your quality assurance supervisors are doubling down on checking every phone call that they can, you know, to make sure that everybody's performing the right way. And then operationally, that's you know, going back to the thing of having the appropriate equipment, that's another nightmare in itself, because you have to make sure that everybody's properly set up at home with broadband and Wi-Fi and these things. So I think initially that pivot was a little bit hard, but it was quickly overcome because we were lucky to have laptops for our agents and equipment and software and CRM so they could work from home. So definitely from the call center perspective, the difficulty that we go is that we're different countries under different regulations, you know, different lockdown periods, and not the same Wi-Fi connections for everybody where they are. So we were lucky to have great call center managers and great operational managers that were just tackling every single one of those issues and focusing on how do we make sure that everything that we've set up here can go on from home, and that our agents are safe, and that everybody is working properly, and that quality doesn't lower at all. So that was really a big shift during the beginning that we quickly stepped into, and then I'd say like a month into the pandemic, we were already pretty well set up. But yeah, we continue to learn every day. I mean, this doesn't end.
Yeah,
for sure.
Andrea, a little bit of a different story for you here on this. Can you share what you might have found?
Well, I think certainly having been handling public relations out of a home office now for about 5.5 years, it's really the question of the change of bringing a client in studio or face-to-face to meet a reporter. So whereas before we might have shipped products if we were doing product reviews, now that product has to be requested and we have to let them know when it's arriving, because people are not accepting packages that weren't requested or they don't know aren't coming. So now when I'm booking interviews, these interviews are being done like we're doing today on a video screen. And so that's a benefit because of the fact that nobody has to travel for an interview. But then there's that side way of, okay, making sure what's your background, what's your content, how long is the interview? Is the interview being edited or are you going live to tape? So there's a whole preparation for my clients to be prepared for video interviews, and that's changed because of this home environment, and they're in a home environment as well. So it's, you know, making sure they're in the right office, making sure that the dog doesn't run in or that the kids don't need something at that point. And you want to make sure that you're taken seriously in that kind of environment with the press. But I'd also like to point out the growth in my category of podcasts. I mean, 50% of homes have podcast fans in them. So we're finding that 68 million Americans are listening to podcasts every single week. So the pandemic has brought a press opportunity to be interviewed on podcasts so that my clients can use that public relations placement on their website and in their social media and repost it again in 3 weeks or in 3 months or in 6 months, because a lot of the content is evergreen. So I'm finding that the work at home angle has benefited my clients because they're not commuting to work. They're not commuting to go to an interview or to a trade show. They're able to get it all done right in the comfort of their home environment. So in that sense, public relations certainly has benefited from having video content and easy access to doing those interviews.
That makes sense. The next couple of questions here, again, there's a little bit of a split between Shai and Bryce and their experiences and Andrea's, but with Shai, I'm going to start with you. Challenges of managing your team from home, it ranges from the opportunities and what the solutions are to help motivate all the way down to the other end to avoid people burning out. What did you find worked, and what steps did you take to avoid your own burnout maybe in this environment?
Right. Yeah. Well, listen, I mean, you definitely miss out on a lot of things when you're not working in a physical environment where you have face-to-face communication. You miss out on things that are probably not related specifically to the job that you're doing, which are those social interactions that people use, to relieve themselves from some sort of stress they're going through during the day. There's a sense of team spirit that I think is also very important for any company. And there's a sense of, are we losing, how, not are we losing, but how can we maintain the same level of trust that we have on each other when we're working in a physical environment now that we transition into an environment which is completely virtual? So those are different items to tackle. I think that regarding trust, it's very important to set up a proper frequency of meetings, which is something that we did. We don't want to overwhelm people with too many meetings, like we're keeping track of every single thing that they're doing. I wanted the people on my team to feel like, okay, all the responsibilities are delegated just like we do when we're in an office environment, and we're going to trust you guys to step up and take the role of being the one that's going to carry, your load in the company. And I think that everybody understood that in the beginning. So simple meetings with proper project management were key. Knowing that our goals were aligned. Hey guys, we're gonna set up these tasks, and these tasks relate to a specific project, and this project has a vision within it. Just like we do when we're in the office, nothing has to change, but let's make sure that everybody is stepping up to their role. And the thing about communication is that I really think that Zoom and some of these tools for meetings were absolutely phenomenal, because you don't want to miss out on face-to-face communication. If this were still, the 70s or the 80s and we had to do these through phone calls, I think it would be a very different situation, right? So that technology has definitely been a blessing. And knowing when the right time it is, there's right times to ask your employees if they need anything, if there's anything that you could provide. If they can give you feedback as well about your management, that's something that I've been trying to do lately, which is that we're as managers, we're constantly giving our employees feedback and our coworkers feedback, but sometimes you also want to get some for yourself, and understand, hey, is it okay if I text you at 4 a.m. in the morning requesting the task from last night? But no, it's just been avoiding burnout has been a balance of trusting your teammates and keeping social interactions whenever you see a chance to do so when you're a Zoom call before it starts, a little bit of knowing what everybody was doing in the week, and yes, I guess maintaining a good frequency of meetings and meetups so that everybody in the office feels like they're still in contact with each other. I think that avoids burnout because it makes you feel like you're still, very much relevant to what's going on. So you feel that heightened sense of responsibility, and you're just going to walk that extra mile. Yeah.
Bryce, your thoughts?
So yeah, I mean, it's been, I'm a big relationship guy, so I really believe in, in relationships, and building relationships to get the best out of motivating each other. I mean, we spend the majority of our lives with the people that we work with, right? I mean, and so it's definitely been an effect to remove myself from being with those that that I used to interact with on a daily basis. Coming in is always a wonderful thing for me. I tell my wife, I see all these smiling faces, and you take so much for granted. I mean, the water cooler discussions, the smile from the front desk, I mean, just catching up with the people that really make this operation run on a daily basis is something that I think serves as fuel for me. And so I miss those interactions that are small. Zoom has been amazing to just be able to continue working, and to be able to jump onto a call and share your screen and literally walk through an issue is a wonderful tool. And so that has enabled us to really accomplish what we would not have been able to do several years ago, as Shai was mentioning. So technology is a great thing. On the flip side of that, we're in some of our locations are in rural areas. We don't have the best internet providers or bandwidth, so we run into issues there, and those are just things you have to deal with. I mean, we know we have these webinars, and technology is your best friend until until it's not, and you have to scramble and figure out how to power through. But I think for the most part, we're all in this together. We all understand. Everyone has their own challenges. Some are similar, some are very different. But I think you just have to be able to be flexible, and there's things like accountability, things like that you have to stay on top of a little more than you would in a more personal environment. But building a team of trust is extremely important, and I think in this environment, in this that we're in now, I think it really makes you value those trusted members of your team even more. To be able to come through with the barriers and with the challenges that are in place.
Yeah, that's great. Before we shift over to Andrea and your kind of viewpoint on this, I want to launch another poll for everybody on our screen. If you've shifted to a work-at-home environment, has your company made any strides toward returning employees to the office? Please feel free to answer away, and we'll move over to Andrea's take here, which, for you, Andrea, I think it's more about resetting client expectations about what you can accomplish and how you can pursue their plans and strategies. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Totally. I think that setting those expectations is realistic. And I think one of the things that I pride myself on is making sure that clients understand what is happening in the world of public relations. I always joke that I'm a PI in PR because I'm always researching new press opportunities for my clients and setting those expectations. So an example, at the beginning of the pandemic, I had an author of a book that didn't at all relate to the pandemic or anything that was happening in the world. And so we had to put the campaign, I was honest, I said, let's put the campaign on hold for a few months, because right now, all the news and all of the books that were being reviewed and all the conversation was COVID related. So it's setting those expectations in what is realistic for your product, for your service, because you think that the subject is worthy of being covered by your daily newspaper or USA Today or what have you, doesn't mean it will be. Gone are the days of full features on a company for the sake of a full feature, but the days are here to be quoted in a story about a topic. How is your company handling technology? How is your company handling fulfillment? What's new in e-commerce that has changed in phone centers and call centers? So you look at those angles and you set the expectations based on what's happening. And what's important to note now is all of the people that used to work at that media outlet, they don't work there anymore. So they're either unemployed or they're freelancers. So staffs have been tremendously reduced at TV news departments. Magazines are folding right and left. Radio stations are not covering news and interviews as much as they were. But on the flip side, you have growing at-home journalists who are creating blogs that have tremendous readership that you should be included in. You've got these podcasts and video casts and Facebook Lives. So there are all of these opportunities, and that's how I set the expectations based on here's the story, here's who we'll go after, here's what's realistic. But one of the things I always say to my clients, give me your top 10 wish list. If it was a perfect world and you could be included in the press, where would you want to be included? And I'm always striving for the top 10 wish list, but being realistic in that you're not necessarily going to be on the Ellen DeGeneres show with your product unless you're going to pay over $1 million in promotion fees and giving products to the entire studio audience. So there's that setting those expectations, but they're realistic expectations to set for public relations when it comes to companies affiliated with the performance-driven marketing category. So there's lots of opportunities to be had. So that's how I set the expectations. Communication.
That makes sense. Got to communicate at all times. Well, according to our poll results, not a single one of you has had a company that made any strides to get people back in the office, which is not surprising. But hopefully some of that progress will start coming early in 2021. Experimentation, Shai, we talked about this in the lead up to this. We're all kind of experimenting with different things and how we work and how we get the job done. Some of it's more successful than others. What's one thing you tried to implement in your routine that worked, and what's one thing that just didn't?
Well, one thing that really did not work was I was trying to just wake up like extremely early, and I tried doing a week where I woke up at 4:30 a.m. just to get a head start on the day. But there was a lot of work at nighttime, and I just it ended up becoming too much of a hassle, and it just quickly left my schedule. I realized I'm not Navy SEAL material. But one thing that did work was something that I had not implemented before, which was having a morning routine that included exercise and meditation. I think a morning routine is very important, and those that don't have it, as soon as they start practicing one, they feel the difference throughout the day. I think it's much easier to be mindful about your tasks and what you're doing in the present moment when you've meditated and exercised and already gotten your body and your mind in action, I guess, but in a serene way. So that was definitely crucial, and it's become a crucial part of my day-to-day. Just even if it's a 30-minute, 20-minute workout, just do something that is going to sort of like put that stop in the day and separate things out. So waking up extremely early did not work. I went back to 6 a.m. pretty quick, but I think exercise, diet, and a morning routine are very, very, very crucial. So if anybody out there that's listening has not practiced a morning routine, go find yourself one on YouTube and try one tomorrow, because it will change your life. Absolutely.
And Andrea, I know you're a big believer in this as well. Maybe you can speak to that, and then maybe something that's not working for you.
Yeah, I think that I've had that early morning workout routine for years and years and years. So I've shifted from my getting up at about 5:15 in the morning, and now I'm getting up at about 6:45 in the morning. So, but working out every single morning, because I spend my day behind my desk and I don't really get up very often. I'm working. And I think that having that morning routine and getting yourself set for the day by working out, that's always been something that was so important to me. And then taking a break for lunch. The other day, it was about 3 p.m, and I had call after call. And finally, I said to someone I was having, I said, "Can we end this call? I've got to eat. That's my stomach you're hearing on the screen." So it's making time to eat something, and then making time or awareness on when you need to log off. When working from a home environment, you can work and work and work and work. And there comes a point that you need to say, it's time to go for an evening walk, which we tend to do anytime the weather is decent, to cook dinner, to read a book or watch a TV show or socially distance with a friend. So those things are things that are working for me. But those of you who know me know that I'm in the Northeast. So now it's going to start getting colder. which means that I won't be able to see people on my deck from the social distance, and I won't be able to go for that evening walk because it'll be pitch black and very, very cold. So those kind of things are going to change. But the thing that is working is getting to know clients and the press better because of video. And because of the fact that we could just say, hey, can we jump on a Zoom? And we're getting to know each other better, and we're able to brainstorm better than we did with telephone before. So I think that that's one of the things that is working better. The thing that's not working as well, the telephone, meaning in the pre-COVID days, I can call a newsroom, talk to the assignment desk, get through to the producer I want. Now everyone's working remotely. You really can't reach people that way. And if you do reach them that way, they don't want to talk to you. They want the email. They won't forward your call. So there is that challenge in things that aren't working, but I'm going to be a zigger and a zagger and find a way to make it work.
Great. That's great. Bryce, what about you?
I mean, just piggybacking on that, I mean, routine is crucial for me. I mean, I get up at usually around 6 to 7 o'clock whenever my 3-year-old decides it's time. And my wife, God bless her, she's up 5:30, 5 o'clock. She's getting ready and gets 3 boys ready to go to school. So it's me and a 3-year-old from about 6 till 8 o'clock, and which is wonderful. I mean, I love to be able to spend that time with him. And his mood typically sets the tone for how my day is going to start. And so I need that decompression after I take him to his designated daycare, which is a phenomenal facility that's doing a wonderful job with how they manage things. That's a whole nother story. But yeah, as soon as I get him secured, then that gives me the time to prepare for my day. And I usually I'm a list guy, so I have things that I want to make sure that I accomplish in the day, and will make me feel like I've done something and contributed to this world. If I don't get through that list, then then I don't usually feel productive. But yeah, as far as what doesn't work for me is having my entire family in the same house with me while I'm working. That just didn't work. I was confined to my room and a small desk there, and I just don't do well with sitting, and I just can't sit still. I mean, I have to be moving, and so I've really done well to incorporate walks into my routine. When I have a lunch break, I'll take a brief walk and just unplug. And as a marketer, and speaking to my fellow marketers, I mean, that muse usually shows up. That creativity starts to go when you step away, and I get a lot of great ideas just from being able to just separate from the technology for a little bit wherever I have that opportunity. And so yeah, it's been different. I've worked on my own, so I've been in that scenario. So it's just going back to that, forcing yourself into a routine, but yeah, I definitely miss my my coworkers and love the opportunity to reconnect with them when I can.
Makes sense. Guys, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit in our list of questions just because we're getting a little tight on time, and get into, we've talked about video conference and we've talked about, lessons. So I think we can just move ahead in these questions. I'm going to ask the audience another poll question that's going to kind of lead us into the next step. And that poll question is, when do you believe you'll be ready to, willing, and able to return to business travel in 2021? I think able, the biggest, most important word there. So please share your feedback there, and we'll get to another question that talks about this specific topic. Video conferencing cannot replace face-to-face networking, and the performance marketing industry is extremely social and tight-knit. Many have voiced that what they've missed the most during this time are networking events and opportunities. Andrea, I'm going to go to you first on this. What have you missed the most from not being able to connect more directly with your clients, peers, and competitors?
I certainly miss going to PDMI. I certainly miss seeing people who I've known for years and years and years, having a hug, sharing a drink, catching up, laughing, finding out where we've been in our lives. I think that that's what helps grow you as a person, are those relationships that you make. And some people you might be close with if you're in touch with them all the time, and other people you may not be as close with, but when you see them, you feel that instant bond and you want to spend time together. So I certainly miss those opportunities to spend time. And sometimes you sit down and you're having a drink or you're grabbing lunch and you realize you're learning something new about that business or that person that you never knew before. And that could lend itself to that snowball effect. Let's do this, let's get this done, let's work together on this project. And that only happens when you're in that comfortable social type of environment. So the lectures during PDMI were always informative, and I'm enjoying attending virtual webinars and learning new things. I think that part of this experience is that I learn something new every single day. And that's really exciting. So I know I want to learn something new every day. But from those face-to-face, and whether it was PDMI or Houseware Show or Hardware Show or parties in New York City or get-togethers or bringing a client to a TV station, meet with a journalist, or going on a trip to just be with a client during their sales meeting. I miss those times, and I'm looking forward to the times that we could resume that. For me, that's not going to be until there's a proven vaccine, because I'm fortunate enough to have my parents who are in their 80s that live around the block, and I get to see them all the time. And so I'm staying very, very safe for the sake of my parents, in addition to the fact that obviously I want to stay safe for myself and for my immediate family, but my parents matter the most to me, and I'm very lucky and fortunate to have them. So I miss networking, but I'm finding that the virtual networking has been very exciting, whether it's Zoom and breakout rooms, Remo rooms, or a new one I tried called Blitzer that I just tried last week. It's a new platform to be able to do some one-on-one networking with people. So I'm looking forward to what's going to come next, and I'm looking forward to the day that I could see all of you and share a drink and a hug in the same room.
And Bryce, I'm going to go to you next on this one.
Yeah, I mean, so our 2021 plan is a gigantic question mark, you know, when it comes to the events category. And, you know, we always are very involved with, you know, when it comes to the events in Chicago and heading to San Diego and New York. And, you know, I love this industry because of, you know, everyone in this industry works incredibly hard, and the relationships are truly genuine, you know, that are formed, and you know, everyone looks out for one another. And so just removing that aspect, as Andrea pointed out, I mean, it makes it, you know, it makes it a challenge. But you know, you know, I know it's cliche, you know, we're all in this together, so we are looking for ways, because we're hardworking, to get creative and figure out how we can continue to maintain contact. And, you know, this council's been a wonderful way to stay involved and plugged in and educate, you know, ourselves, and, you know, just keep that open line of communication among one another. So, you know, I think, you know, John Yerington said he's got 100 hugs to give or more, you know, as soon as this thing's over with. I mean, I think, it'll be exciting. And, you know, as I pointed to earlier, you know, we certainly will take a lot less for granted, you know, as soon as we're able to come out of this thing. So, you know, just continuing to be creative, find new ways, new opportunities, and just, you know, looking forward to the time when we can reconvene with that networking approach and strategy.
Shai, what about you?
Yeah, you know, I wouldn't like to change anything that Bryce and Andrea said. I think those comments were perfect. I think that we're all marketing people or people, right? We're very much prone to social interactions, and we like to discuss ideas in person, and we like face-to-face communication. And events are simply like, you know, just going to PDMI last year. There's so many ideas, so many great people looking to get businesses and products up and running and campaigns to set up. And it's a very dynamic environment. And I think that that element of of how dynamic things are when you're in an event is something that you cannot really achieve in a virtual space. But you know, that has to be compensated by, hey, you need to double down on calling Andrea, you know, every 2 weeks and just seeing how she's doing and what's going on, and talking to John Yarrington. You know, I definitely want to go back to San Diego and party with John Yarrington and Thomas Haire, but it's going to be a little bit before we can do that. So you know, and us particularly, you know, us as a company, we attend a lot of conferences. So definitely we had about 7 or 8 conferences in mind to attend this year. Those plans were completely shattered, so we just had to readapt to that. But whatever we do in the marketing industry, when it comes to relationships between companies, we never want to miss out on that social interaction that comes with it as well. So it cannot be, I don't think video conference can replace in-person events, as you mentioned, Tom, but I think that it's up to the people in the marketing industry to generate the spaces so that we can at least try to compensate for that, so that we can all, you know, be ready and warmed up, so that when 2021 comes, every single CEO at our companies is willing to risk our lives and send us to these conferences so that we can all, yeah. So that's it. I'm very excited about next year. I think we're closer to the end than we think. I think it, you know, I'm pretty sure by October next year we'll be able to fly. So I'm excited to see PDMI come back in San Diego for that time of the year.
Well, thank you, Shai. I think you know, it's interesting on this poll. The Q1 of 2021 finished in a dead heat with not until 2022. With Q2, Q3, Q4 kind of fading behind. So you either have some very aggressive, ready to go folks, or you have people wanting to wait. And that seems to be the way of the world right now. We'll see what happens. I'm going to launch one last poll. And while I do that, I'm going to ask one last question for myself, and then we'll get to a couple audience questions that have come in. We talk a lot about what you guys miss the most about the things that have changed here. What about the change, you know, what with all these changes, what you missed the least that was a normal part of your life prior to the pandemic? Maybe Bryce, you can give us a start here.
You know, I would have to say being wrapped into a very specific routine. You know, Andrea can probably agree, you know, just being able to have flexibility is great. I'm not one to worry about when it is that I'm needed and when it is I need to work. You know, to be able to, you know, tend to the kids, or, you know, have that flexibility to throw in a load of laundry, just to keep things moving along at home and keeping, you know, the family happy and able to rest and relax on the weekend. You know, I think it's, you know, there's definitely pluses and minuses to, you know, to being home and being away. So I think, you know, just flexibility for me is a wonderful thing.
Great. How about you, Andrea?
You know, I agree with Bryce. I mean, flexibility is something that I've always appreciated over the last 5+ years, because prior to that, I was working in an environment that I was working from 7 in the morning until 8 at night, coming home, eating dinner, working again until 11 or 12 at night, and then doing it all over again. So certainly the flexibility, the one thing that for me, and I always joke with people that if I was rich, I'd have a driver. I hate driving. I don't know. It's just something I've always hated doing, and going to meetings in New York City and driving with the traffic, and driving down to Philadelphia, or driving to meetings and getting stuck in traffic. And I'm calling and saying, I didn't expect it to take me 2 hours when the drive was only 45 minutes. So I certainly, you know, appreciate the flexibility, and I appreciate that I'm not behind the wheel of a car. So, but also I think, you know, the one thing I do appreciate a bit more is that when I am meeting new journalists on behalf of my clients, they are taking the time to talk to me a little more. They're taking time to follow up. They're taking time to be willing to possibly interview the next client. on a totally unrelated topic. So I think that since we've all had that stress level and possibly, anxiety level, other people are feeling the same thing and are willing to give you a little more time. And, so that's something that I don't miss the fact that everyone was chop, chop, chop. We're in a hurry. Let's get this all done. I do appreciate now that people are breathing and taking more time.
Mm-hmm.
Shai, what about you?
It's a tough question to answer, really, because there's a lot of I guess my perception of what was the pre-pandemic era has changed across the pandemic era, if that makes sense. In the beginning, it was like, okay, we're home, we have a flexible environment, and we can do all these things, and you sort of feel like you have this shift and you've adapted properly. I think 3 months in or 4 months in, I started to miss the office environment a lot. I miss my coworkers and the environment and the dynamics of it. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm kind of that intense chop guy, Andrea. So I really like that type of hyperactivity. I don't think it's something you can get within a work at home environment. So things that I might have said I missed the least at a certain point in time, I now miss the most. So that's really been a big shift. So it's tough. It's tough to answer that question. I think that we just have to look at it as being grateful for what we have right now, the fact that we're healthy, the fact that we still have jobs, the fact that we can continue on with our responsibilities in the best possible manner. And that, probably there's a lot of things that you thought you were not going to miss that now you miss, and that's okay. And that once we get back on track and living our lives in the new normal, that we might be able to regain those, or maybe not. And that's also something that we're going to have to accept. So it's definitely a tough question to answer. Yeah,
understood. That last poll question we asked if, to Andrea's point earlier about virtual networking, we are looking into some various concepts for virtual networking presented by the PDMI. It looks like a good number of you are interested in that, so stay tuned there. We're running tight on time. Fortunately, one of the questions that came in is going to lend itself to a very short answer, and gives us the time to answer it. Can you summarize your 2020 in 10 words or less? Whoever wants to take the first crack at it, go for it.
All right, I'll give that a shot first. I'm going to say I'm going to do all one words: pivoting, successful relationships, family, business. My cup overflows.
Well done. You still have two if you want them.
No.
No.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, good work, guys.
I would say this is the year to prove your resilience. I think that is key.
Yeah. Bryce?
I just find so much irony that 2020 is so unclear.
Well played. I'm going to go on the super positive end and say the Lakers and the Dodgers are the world champions. Thank you, guys. We're about out of time here. Shai, Bryce, Andrea, really appreciate your time and your tremendous feedback today. A big thank you to the audience for turning out to listen. We really appreciate it. Again, our next fall seminar series event, tentatively slated for mid-November, will be announced soon. Keep an eye on your email on the PDMI's website and social media for more information. Your next opportunity to attend a PDMI live event online is our next episode of Take 20, which is our 20-minute webinar series. It's created by our Brand Response Council. That next episode will air live next Wednesday, November 4th at 2 o'clock Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. Please visit thepdmi.com/take-20 to check out the upcoming schedule and register to attend. Again, the three of you, thank you so much. We appreciate it. Thank you all for joining us today. Enjoy the rest of your day and the rest of your work week, and stay safe and stay well. Thanks all. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Tom. And thank you to everybody at home.
Thank you so much.